and just really hysteria. And through this, the police, the FBI, the investigators have to try to track down killers. And it's really important they get this right. And they do have two people of interest to join us right now is the gentleman we spoke to just the other day, former FBI counterterrorism expert. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show, Tim Clemente. Tim, how are you?
Good, very good, Doug. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming back. We enjoyed your insights on this. So I'm sure you've seen the pictures of these two guys that the FBI is interested in. We have it posted on our Facebook page, too. You can go to McIntyre in the morning, click the like button on Facebook. With big circles around them. One guy's wearing a white baseball cap with sunglasses on his head. The other guy is just sort of staring. And what do you make of this? They're side by side, and these guys apparently they have pictures of them leaving bags. And this is from security cameras from a department store across the street from the actual bomb sites.
Yeah, I would say these are most definitely persons of interest. These are people that the FBI and law enforcement need to talk to. The behavior that would be suspicious, A, leaving a bag, always suspicious, especially post 9/11, and B, their demeanor in some of the photos, they're facing away from the race, they're talking to each other. It almost looks like they're angry in some of the photos. So that's the kind of demeanor that you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that's not part of the joy of the event. They're living in a wholly separate world. And I'm not saying these guys are the suspects. I'm saying what their behavior exhibits is very suspicious. And it's what we would call reasonable suspicion. So you'd want to talk to the people and possibly detain them for further questioning.
I'm sure you've seen the video by now, or the pictures, that there were some trash bags placed next to a sort of a mailbox and a garbage can. And then it's at that exact location that one of the bombs detonates. I mean, I know that we can't say definitively, but it certainly looks empirically like intuition would tell you that it sure looks like the bomb was in those bags.
Yeah, it's very indicative of it because the blast radius seems to emanate from that exact point. The only picture I saw with the post-blast one was muted, was blurred out, because apparently the images were very gory that were in them. So I would like to see the raw image to see exactly where the blast comes from, because it certainly does look like it came from where that apparently paper bag was placed right at the curb.
We're talking with Tim Clemente, who's a former FBI counterterror expert. Tim, I have another question about that. How is it that the mailbox that was right next to it didn't become part of the shrapnel?
Because this is not a very high explosive. As I mentioned the other day, that I thought it might be a pipe bomb or something in a containment vessel, and these pressure cookers are exactly of the type I was speaking of the other day. A low explosive needs to be contained because it deflagrates. It does not detonate. A high explosive detonates at the speed of sound or above. A low explosive deflagrates, which means it's a rapid burning, creating expansive gases. Those gases are contained within a vessel like a pipe or the pressure cooker, and then it overwhelms the pressure cooker, and that becomes the shrapnel. The mailbox, even though it's only a couple of feet away, isn't getting the brunt of the force of those gases. Now, there should be gouges and there should be scrapes in the side of that mailbox from shrapnel emanating from the bomb, but soft tissue would be so much more vulnerable to that blast at that distance than would the steel of a mailbox.
That makes perfect sense. Now, there's another story, too, and I don't know what to make of this. We had this first described as person of interest, although there was all kinds of contradictory reporting on whether he was or he wasn't. This 20-year-old Saudi student, Saudi national, who was in the hospital at Brigham and Children's Hospital. They went to his apartment in Revere. They searched it. And now we have reports that he's being deported. Again, I'm trusting that this is accurate, but at this point it's hard to trust our fellow media types because so much of it has been inaccurate. But what do you make of that?
That I got to tell you, is very confusing. Having him as a person of interest does not necessarily mean that he was anywhere close to a suspect. The fact that his apartment was searched, as we discussed the other day, would indicate you need probable cause to do a search, to get a search warrant. So that would mean that there was something there. And it may have just been, we used to call them, as bad as it sounds, an Arab in public call. After 9/11, I was an FBI agent in Washington, D.C., and we got literally thousands and thousands of calls of suspicious people. And most of them were just individuals going about their day, but others, because there was such a heightened awareness, were so, aware of. Arabs had committed the act of terror on 9/11, so they were kind of pushing that on any Arab they saw in public, and it was unjustified, most of it. And this may have been exactly that. This may have been, bystander saw this guy running away from the scene and thought it was very suspicious. Apparently, he was close enough in proximity to the device to have gotten burns. I don't know about the deportation. It may be that there was something about his immigration status that wasn't correct, so that was going to be resolved by deporting him. I really have no idea about the intimate details of that. It's just a little suspicious that the deportation would take place in such close proximity to him having been at least a suspicious person, if not a suspect.
Yeah, and of course we don't actually know, in fact, that that's happening. It would repeat a pattern that we know that some of the bin Laden family that had roots in Boston were flown out of the country after the 9/11 attacks. And we also had the synchronicity of these ricin letters showing up from this guy down in Mississippi, the Elvis impersonator in Mississippi, because that also replicates the pattern from 9/11 when, in the immediate aftermath of those attacks, we had these anthrax letters that went out.
That is, I worked the anthrax cases in D.C., and I tell you what, the immediate response was that it has to be related because it was in such close proximity exactly a week later or thereabouts, and then it turns out they weren't related. It's just coincidence, and sometimes coincidences happen, in matters like this. And then you have, of course, the tragedy in Waco.
I know.
Falling 3 or 4 days later. So.
It's a confluence of events that is a conspiracy theorist's paradise. Hey, Tim, thanks so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. Tim Clemente, former FBI counterterrorism expert.